get-started kit at home. I got a utility belt. I got a pair of sweats. I got a sweatshirt. Yeah. I got the whip thing going. It's a baby whip. It's a smaller whip. Yeah. Starts with a utility belt and sweats. And then when you get to the higher level, it's the Outback jacket, the oilskin jacket. Yeah.
That's pretty,
That's
pretty funny.
the big duster. Are we recording?
Ready?
Yeah.
Ready to go?
So the first time, one of the first times I met Colin was we had I just moved in, and it was 90, I think it was 98, right? And I had a lot of construction to do, so I rented a little skid steer. And I rented it for a week because I thought it was more economical. So by the third day I was done with it, and I sat down there, and Colin looked over, and then I got the call, "Hey, you done with that thing? What are you going to do with that?" They sat there for 2 days. "Can I use that?" I go, yeah, come on down, you can use it. So I showed him how to run it, right? So it was gone for 2 days, and it came back, and then he goes, "Yeah, I want to come up for dinner. Come up for dinner, meet Linda, and have dinner." So, "Oh, okay, I'm a single guy, I just moved in. I was living in an Airstream, right, in the property." So I roll up in there, fed me like a king, right? Like big feast. And then the whole conversation was riding, motorcycles, and horses. And Colin goes, "You ride, right?" I go, "Yeah, I just did a Western in South Africa. I did a Cossack drag. I got shot off the horse. I did fire weapons and yada, yada, yada." He goes, "Yeah, we'll have to go for a ride one time." I go, yeah. So 2 days later, in this wintertime, right, it's downpouring rain. It's 9 o'clock at night. I just settled into the Airstream, right, pulled the covers over. I got the TV going. Phone rings, the landline. I go, "Yeah, it's Mickey." "Yeah, Mickey, it's Colin. We should go for a ride." I go, "Yeah, call me anytime. I'd love to go for a ride." "Yeah, mate, I'm calling you right now for a ride." "Yeah, but it's night and it's raining and it's the best time, mate." I thought for a second, I went, "Holy shit." "All right, I'm in." So I get on the little motorcycle, I come putting up here, and the horses are in the corral already wound up. It's like 9:30. They're wound up because they know they're about to have some action, right? They love it. So Colin saddled in the second horse, my horse, right? I don't think it was Tower. I think it was, not sure which one it was.
Yeah, probably Kelly.
Big one, big thoroughbred, right?
Yeah.
And he hands me this helmet. I've never rode a horse with a helmet, right? I look at the helmet, and it's scarred up. There are scars.
Well, he's Mickey Giocomazzi, one of the great stuntmen of all time. Throws himself out of planes and windows and does all that stuff. Mickey, why do you do that?
One day, Colin, I grow up, be just like you. Yeah, you're my inspiration. Well, a lot of times we do it for the fun, like you do.
Yeah, well, I guess it is. Now, do you get afraid sometimes?
There's a healthy respect for that stuff. Yeah, so fear is part of it. Which makes you want to do a good job prepping. If you can prep well, then you lose the fear. If you have time to, do the gag and do the background and do all the testing, the fear is there, but at least it's controlled.
So you recognize the fear and then you manage it, so to speak.
That's exactly right. Right. So if I have to lay a motorcycle down at 50 miles an hour, I go on the motorcycle, 80 miles an hour, 2 or 3 passes on the line where I'm going to slide it, and when I come back, then they start rolling film. I'm doing 45, 50. It seems like I could run that fast. So if you do, so probably like you, when you're doing your horse stuff, galloping over the big rails and logs and cars that you go over.
Yeah.
You probably go over the smaller cars first before you go over the big ones.
Exactly.
Start with a Volkswagen and then work up to the limo.
I've collected a few Volkswagens, however.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's, but the idea of I steeplechase, as you know, I haven't for a while because I haven't had a good horse for it. But a young kid asked me one day. He said, "We're at a start of a steeplechase in over on the East Coast," and he says, he says, "You've done this a lot." And I says, "Yeah." He says, "Can I ask you, do you ever get afraid?" I said, I'm afraid all the time.
Yeah.
And he says, well, oh, that's good. He says, because I'm terrified. And I says, yeah, well, you should be. People get killed doing this. It's about the most dangerous thing you can do on a horse. I said, and he says, well, should I be in front? And I says, well, I don't know about that. If you crash, everybody's coming over the top of you. And he said, well, should I be behind? And I'm watching the guy with the flag is about to drop the flag. And I says, well, yeah, well, if somebody's in front and they crash, you could jump over them too. So he says, what about the middle? And I see the guy drop the flag, and I says, that's where I am. Stay out of that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you want to be up front. You want those guys to be up front so you can at least see the carnage, and that way you'll have a good story to tell him, because I'm sure he'll be out cold and not remember a thing. What happened? Yeah, you crashed.
Yeah. So what's the most dangerous thing you think you've done?
Oh, that's a very common question for stunt guys. There's several that are in the archives. One of the scariest things when I was a younger stunt guy, I was tasked to jump off a dam on the Colorado River in Page, Arizona. Now I can't remember the name of the dam. But it was a 750 foot tall dam, and I was in a Speedo basically, and I was supposed to do a swan dive. It was the Glen Canyon Dam. That's what it was. So you picture the dam, you look over the side, and you see the big 750 feet. It's really big, and it goes down and it swells out. And at one point, I'm thinking, wow, okay, well, we got a crane, we had cables, and we had wires. I had a harness on underneath my Speedo. It was interesting, because as I was getting ready to do the test, I started thinking about, when you pinch a watermelon seed really hard and it goes flying out. Yeah. That's kind of the way I felt with my harness under my Speedo. I'm like, going to squeeze real hard when that table comes tight, and I'm going to shoot right out of it. So that was in my mind. And it was a deceleration rack. It was old school stuff, right? Nowadays we'll use a winch, but in the old days you would put some climbing line attached to a cable, attached to your harness, attached to a crane, to a shiv, down to a deceleration rack. The rope will go through the rack, and as you tighten the rack, it's for rock climbing. When you fall, it takes off the speed, so you don't come to a complete bang.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, we did the test. Everything was great. You build confidence as you do the test, and then you stand up there on the dam, and they're getting ready to roll. And the funny part for me was the first AD comes up to me, and the cameras were all set. They had one in the elevator chute looking up, and one profiling me as I did the swan dive off. He goes, the cameras are all set, Mickey. We're ready to go. Are you ready to go? Yeah, I'm ready to go. How do you want to do this? Do you want to, we say rolling, and then you just take your own action? Or how do you want to do it? I go, if you just say action, I'll go on action. And his eyes lit up, and he was like it was like a new thing to him. And he walked back, and in my mind, I'm thinking he's going back there going, hey, the fool. I mean, Mickey's going to jump on action. It was one of those moments I kind of chuckled, right? And, of course, everything went well, and it was, I think I had 150 feet of line, and at 100 feet, the line would come tight, and then you would decelerate in that 50 feet. But, when you jump off of something like that, and you're mentally prepared, and you jump in, you start to do the swan dive, and you start going down, 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 and you think you've went 100 feet already. But and then you start, the back of your mind's going, wait a minute, it's not coming tight. And then all of a sudden it catches you, right? And I went from this perfect swan dive into a total jackknife, and my lungs just went through the whole canyon. You could hear that reverberation and echo, and then that was fine. It was all good. And the hardest part was coming back up. So they had to hand pull me back up 150 feet, and that took a while. Oh, God. And that kind of had my heart pounding, because you're looking at the ground the whole time in that position. It was kind of a crampy thing. But we did it twice, and it was fine. It was a nice paycheck. Yeah, they wanted another one.
Oh, really?
But,
welcome to the movies. They said, that's so great. Yeah. Can you do it again?
Yeah, that's great. Can we do another one? But, for a stunt guy, anytime he does a gag, he gets a little, what they call a stunt adjustment. So you do two, you get paid a little bit more.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah, right.
high jumps and fire burns they pay pretty well. Rolling a car, crashing a car, those they pay pretty good.
So how many cars do you think you've crashed?
Oh, yeah, there's probably 20 or 30 of them that I've destroyed.
Wow.
It's part of it.
What's the difference between the danger aspect of crashing a car and say jumping off a high thing like you did there? What's the difference there?
Well, the car stuff is pretty precise as far as camera angles and camera placement, and other cars are usually involved. So there's a choreography when you see a car crash. So you just don't see a open frame in a car come in and crash. Not very often. It's very boring. So you have cross traffic, and you have pedestrians, and you have moving cameras in cars or on motorcycles. So it gets very precise. So jumping off a building or a house or a tower, that's just basically camera sets up. Maybe they drop a camera with you on a cable, and it's still interesting, but it's just the car thing to me is, I think, a lot more challenging.
What do you think? Something like new technology. We've had all kind of technology changes, but AI is now the big one, they say. How is that affecting stunt work? Do you now have to take as many chances as you did before, or do they just generate a fall without you having to fall?
Oh yeah, the AI thing's a big thing these days. We're still diving into it in the stunt world. I mean, the possibilities are endless. But in the 2 years ago, if you're going to jump off a building, as a stunt double, he basically get put on a reel system, which is a computerized winch, and you can dictate the speed of the fall at 28 feet a second, 18 feet a second, however you want to fall. So we can, when we do that, we set up the rig, then we'll put a 150-pound bag on it and test it 2 or 3 times with the bag, and then the stunt guy will go in there and do it 2 or 3 times, and then we'll stick an actor on there. It's that safe. The last Matrix, we had the actors jumping off a 33-story building in downtown San Francisco.
Wow. And you did that first?
No, I didn't do that one, but my buddies rigged that all up, and matter of fact, I think the studio was against it for a couple of weeks after all the rigging, all the money, all the engineering, all the political stuff that was involved just to get the permit to put the equipment up there, insurance, and meetings for almost a year.
Wow.
And they got to it, and they threw the stunt guys was a man and a woman off 2 or 3 times, and it came down to the final meeting where I want to say it was Warner Brothers. I could be wrong, but said, "No, we're not putting the actors up there. We think it's too dangerous." And the stunt coordinator who rigged it, Scott Rogers, said, "I put my daughter in that spot. My daughter is jumping off of that. That's how safe it is. I wouldn't put my daughter on anything that wasn't safe."
Wow.
And they kind of looked at him and went, "Well, that makes a lot of sense." Mm-hmm. And of course, they ended up, Keanu and Carrie Ann Moss, I think, they both jumped off of it.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that, there's skyscrapers all over the place. There's people in the windows watching and seeing and videotaping and shooting the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's wild footage of that somewhere.
Yeah.
Crazy.
What's the AI can now generate what looks like a jump, but it's not a jump. So what position does that place somebody like you in?
Yeah.
If what you do can be precisely imitated, or can it be precisely imitated, which is my question. Is the difference between a real person doing it and AI doing it, is there a difference there?
I don't think there's going to be much difference. I haven't seen any specific big stunts recently. Actually, however, I did see there's Michael Bay did a movie in Europe, and I think there were a lot of car crashes in it, and we saw bodies coming out of the cars as they crash, and I believe those were AI, CGI people coming out of the car. I think there was 4 or 5 events where we saw people coming out, which worked well.
Yeah.
I thought, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that much about AI. I know that they can say, hey, I want to shoot a woman walking down the street in Tokyo, and they'll get on the computer 5 minutes later. There'll be a woman walking down the street in Tokyo, day, night, rain, snow, sleek, whatever. They could just punch it all in. So, it's going to be interesting, and it'll be a price thing. I'm pretty sure. Is it cheaper to hire a stunt guy to do this, that, and the other, or is it going to be cheaper to generate it on the computer?
Wow. I remember I was in the old days. I was an interviewer of movie stars, and I went on sets everywhere. I remember going down to on the set of Deliverance.
Oh yeah.
And Burt Reynolds was on that movie, and I think it was Hal Needham was the director.
Yeah.
And he said, "Okay, we need somebody to go over that waterfall." And so Burt Reynolds said, "Well, I'll go over it." And he says, "No," he says, "We've got to send a fool, he's talking to Reynolds, and he says, "No, we got to send a stunt guy over."
Yeah.
He says, "They're all idiots." He says, "You just send one of those. You lose one of those, it's sort of okay, but it's not okay. But
Right.
But they're dispensable." He says, "You're the actor. You can't take a risk like this."
Yeah.
He says, "We need a dummy going over that waterfall." And so Hal Needham, he got distracted a little bit, and then he got back to the set and got back on. He says, "Okay, there's a person up on top of the waterfall." He says, "Okay, roll it up, go." And the person jumps over the waterfall, down 100 feet, into the water, and 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, Burt Reynolds crawls up the bank, and he goes up to Hal Needham, and he says, "What did that look like?"
Yeah.
And he says, "That was you?"
Yeah,
And he says, "Yeah, well, he says, "Well, why not?" He says, "What did it look like?" He said, "It looked like a dummy going over a waterfall."
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. You have two legends right there. Hal Needham, he's like the grandfather of one of the grandfathers of the stunt world.
Yes, he was.
He started stunts, and then they got Burt, and I guess Burt was a roommate back in the day.
Yeah.
And they became good pals, and next thing you know, they're making money.
Yeah.
Doing good movies.
Yeah, Burt was he was a very interesting guy. I hung out with him a bit. And he keeps saying, "You're not gonna say I said that, are you?" And I says, "Well, I don't know. Should I?" We'd have philosophical discussions about what I could say and what I couldn't say.
Yeah, you were out in the heyday of all the real good actors. When it was Hollywood was Hollywood.
Yeah, well, they were big stars then.
Those were stars, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
everybody looked up to those guys. Movies were a big thing back in those days.
Huge.
Movie stars were a huge thing.
Before streaming, and movie stars were more important than as equally important as the president. You know, a big movie star. Marilyn Monroe. She was fantastic, and
the Burt Lancasters
and Dolly Parton and
Michael Douglas.
Oh yeah,
John Wayne.
Yeah, I did an interview with John Wayne down at in the shadow of his boat, the Spruce Goose. It was a converted minesweeper, and he had it parked at his dock down at I think it was Newport.
Newport Beach down there.
Yeah, right. And so we're doing the interview, and I said, "What's that boat there?" And he says, "That's mine." He says, "It's a converted minesweeper." I go, "Oh yeah, great, yeah." So, okay. And so we sort of finished the interview, and I said, "Well, come on, we're going to have some lunch. I'll take you to lunch." He says, "Yeah, that'll be good." He was a very gracious sort of guy, he's very down to earth. And we're driving along, and I'm in the car, and there's a cop comes behind the car, and I said, "Oh my goodness!" I said, "I think I'm speeding," and he says, "Well, don't worry." He says, "I'll tell him who I am."
Yeah.
He was so funny.
Yeah. Don't worry, it's me. Yeah, he could have probably had anybody he wanted. He did a lot of those military movies back in the day.
Yeah.
And that was those were good.
Yeah,
those were good.
So we're having lunch in the restaurant, and a lady comes over and wants his autograph, and but she doesn't have a pen, and so Duke says he'd like to be called Duke, and Duke says, "Don't worry," he says, I'll get one for you." So Duke gets up, he says, "Just wait here, you can sit there." So he goes over, and I got a pen, but I'm just letting it play out.
Yeah, see how it goes.
See what you're going to do,
Yeah.
you know. He goes over to the bar, gets a pen, comes back, gives her the pen, writes the autograph,
Right.
and then a friend snaps a picture of them together, and that was good. And he goes back and he gives the pen to the bar, and he's come back again.
That's pretty good.
I just thought that's the most amazing thing, you know. But he was,
Here's your pen I just borrowed 2 minutes ago.
yeah, right, yeah.
You could have just left it on the table.
Yeah, you know, he
what a
was
good guy.
Very, very gracious. And I said, "What do you think about being this famous? Are you happy with it?" He said, "Well, you know, it's what the people want.
Yeah.
Give them what they want. You know,
Yeah.
they want me to be this person, Well, they want me to be famous. I'll be famous. You know."
It's funny when you hang around those people. I've been around a couple of those, you know, high-profile people, and walking down the streets of New York City with them, and you know, people will recognize them, and you just see their face light up, like makes their day.
It does.
And you don't have to do anything. You know, you just stand there on the stoplight, wait for it to turn red. And I was with Harrison Ford one day, and we're on our way to his office. We were working on a movie with Sidney Pollack, and we went to go have a cup of coffee at a coffee shop nearby, and we're getting ready to cross the street, and a gal looks up at him and goes, "Hey, did anyone ever tell you you look like Harrison Ford?" And he goes, "Yeah, I get that all the time." And just disarmed her, right? And she went, "Oh, yeah." And that was it. We light turned green and walked across the street. And then other people would see him, they just give him a little nod, and they light up, and they look over the shoulder back at him as he walked down the street. It was kind of funny.
Yeah. But the bigger they are, the easier they are somehow. You know, I remember being in the Hilton Hotel in Vegas when Elvis Presley was performing, and I was, of course, trying to get an interview with Elvis Presley, because if I got that, then that'd be worth about $25,000 in the bank right there if he said one word to me.
That's a big.
That was huge. So there was Banks was the PR guy for the hotel, and so I said, "Can you get me up in front there?" He says, "Yeah, I'll get you up front." So I'm right at the foot of Elvis.
Right.
As I got a quick camera in my pocket, and I just couldn't help myself. I thought, "No, I got to snap this picture, because that's going to be worth a fortune."
Oh, yeah.
He was nice. He was big and fat, and he looked terrible, and I thought, yeah, this is going to be a great shot. I just couldn't help myself. Pull out the camera, snap it off, put it back in, and out of the periphery of my vision, I see lots of movement on the side. Big guys are standing up. So I thought, well, I'm going to I exhibit, and I get up out of my seat, and I go towards the washroom. I'm gonna bury this. I'm rehearsing what I'm gonna do. I had some tape with me. I always took tape in case I had to hide my tape recorder. So I was gonna lift the lid off the toilet, tape it under there, and just
Get it later.
Get it later. So I get in the toilet, and about then the door comes off the toilet. Hell, it sounds like a train wreck. And these two guys pick me up and walk me through. They don't walk me through. They carry me through the casino.
Right.
So I'm going past all these people, and they toss me in a flower bed outside the Hilton. And I'm thinking to myself, that's an extraordinary change, isn't it? 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, I was at the foot of Elvis Presley, the king. And now I'm in a flower bed.
Yeah, that didn't take long. Yeah, sorry, Colin.
Yeah, but did you have experiences where actors questioned you doubling them, or questioning you do the stunt, or did they insist they want to do the stunt?
Yeah. Well, Harrison always, the last thing I did with him was Call of the Wild, and Terry Leonard, which was his longtime stunt guy back in the Indiana days, was at the bar, and I was at the bar. 3 other stunt guys were there, and Harrison's in the middle. And we come into a day of work knowing that, well, there's going to be a bar and a bar fight probably, and we're going to be doing something. Well, Harrison had the bar fight. He was doing the one hitting the ground, and he was, I think, 76, and Terry Leonard was 78 at the time, and it was just great chatting with him and talking to him, and then next thing you know, there's Harrison picking himself off the floor. He's fighting the guy, and then we're just kind of background, getting pushed around by the whole, people running around, and you're like, when are you gonna? He goes, oh, I love this stuff still. I still love it, But there are times when I had a double Randy Quaid, who's 6'4", wow, right, and I'm 5'11", and I was jumping a boat through it was in a church. It was a movie called Hard Rain, and the city flooded, so we were shooting out in Lancaster where they built the stealth bomber, and they flooded it with 4 feet of rail all the way around. It was, I think, 700 feet by 300 feet, and they had a town in there. And I'm driving a boat, through this whole thing, and at one point I have to crash through the stained glass window of a church, and I'm doubling Randy Quaid in this, and my background is water skiing and boats and cars and motorcycles, but I was a boat guy for years, and I jumped boats, that was the thing. So they brought me in a double Randy Quaid, who was 6'4", and I'm like, okay, I'm wearing his clothes, and he looked at me, he just laughed. He didn't anything to say. I go, you want to do it? He goes, no, I'm not doing that. And it was really interesting because there was another gentleman in front of me, Jeff Evans, great stunt guy, and he rode on the bow of the boat as I jumped through the big stained glass. It was 20 foot high, probably 8 feet wide stained glass window of a church they built. And 40 miles an hour into the church, and
he was on the bow.
He was on the bow, so he made that. Like when you see a cartoon when Bugs Bunny runs through a wall and there's that outline. Mm-hmm. Well, he made that outline for me because I was behind. I was in a center console boat, and he was standing on the bow of the boat holding onto a rope, and he basically broke the glass with his body, and I went through the glass where he opened it up for me, which was kind of nice.
A hell of a stunt.
And then we landed in the pews. Yeah. But there's a lot of times where people look, hey, don't look anything like me. That's, in a blur, in a split second, you can't tell. Yeah. Some of the, you have to have a certain skill that's, hard to find to really be a good stunt guy to break in. But once you get in and you learn all the tools or learn all the exercises, from cars to boats to motorcycles to fighting to fire burns to simply just taking a bullet hit, a performance, you need to perform, right? And, if you can perform and you can double guys at a regular size, then you're going to work a lot. But sometimes with your skill, you need to double guys that are not your height or your weight. Mm-hmm. But there's nobody else can do that specific.
Have there been stunts where things have gone wrong? Yeah,
not too many times, but those moments are rare. But you try to plan for the things that are going wrong. And which is why they bring the stunt guys in, because, in the split second, you have to make a decision. You have to have, a lot of physical skills and mental skills as well. But if things go south, you have a split second to make a decision to at least try to save yourself or save the person that's in the way. There's been incidences where a car gets bumped in the wrong spot, and now that car's heading toward a wall or a camera crew. And you have to have enough skill and thought as to be able to get out of that situation with minimal damage. So, things do go bad, and you sometimes hear about it on the news. There was a guy that was working on a show downtown L.A., and they had a rig called the Mick rig, and it was basically a flatbed pickup truck that it was more like a tow truck kind of a thing, right? You'd put a car on the back and drive away with it. What they lowered it, and they could put the body of a Trans Am or pickup truck or whatever on the back of that, and the operator would be off camera driving, and the camera would be looking back and look like the driver was driving. So this stunt guy, very well-versed driver, slid a 180 around the corner 12 times, right, with the actress, and it was Tom Cruise's ex-wife, the tall gal. I can't remember her name right now. Anyway, she's doing the driving. He was a hero for 13 takes, and on the 14th take, he overcooked it, and at the end of the slide, it hit a pole. And there's 2 stunt guys cabled on the hood, right? And they're doing a great job. Everyone's happy, but 13 takes, something's going to go wrong. You know,
really?
and so one minute you're a hero for 12 takes and a 13 takes bad, and you know that happens. And the actress was fine. The stunt guys got stretched a little, you know, but everything was fine. But yeah, sometimes things go bad.
Are you superstitious? Are there some things where you get on the set and you say, you see something you don't like? You mentioned 13 there, that something was going to go wrong in the 13th
Yeah,
take.
that's a good question.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started, you know, seeing an ambulance on the set was always like, oh man, we don't need an ambulance. Why do we need an ambulance? But there has to be an ambulance on the set. There's an insurance thing where you need to have an ambulance if you're going to do a stunt. You know, the insurance goes up for that day too for the production company. But I remember as a young guy, I was water skiing in a half inch of water for a Goodyear tire commercial.
A half inch of water?
Yeah.
My goodness.
It was a Goodyear tire Aqua Tread, you know, the tires that, you know, spread the water good. It was a half inch. It was a big parking lot. They flooded it.
Yeah.
And there was an ambulance. Like, what's the ambulance for? Well, you know, in case, you know. And I was like, wow. But, you know, I soon got over that.
Yeah. Have you broken any bones? Have you had injuries?
I've had a couple concussions. I've had no broken bones. I've peeled some skin off my shin bone doing an air ram. There's, you know, minor stuff, a couple concussions, but I did get pulled out of a 1971 Pinto on a film in New Orleans. Like, you know, some things go bad, right? We were rehearsing and everything went good in rehearsal, and then when it came down to the actual stunt, car went in the wrong direction, ended up hitting another car and then bounced his car into my car. It was a Hummer versus a Pinto, and I lost that one. I was driving the Pinto. So my head hit the a roll cage inside, and it was one of those moments where the gentleman next to me said, "Hey, you gonna wear a harness?" Nah, we're not in anything. I'm just wearing the lap belt. I put a lap belt in. Usually you'll put a harness in if you think you're going to be in an incident, but you know, forethought wasn't working that day, and things went south. And anyway, I woke up in Tulane Medical Center getting stitches in my forehead.
Wow. Yeah. So how
But
long?
nothing serious, you know.
Concussion and
Yeah.
a broken head. Nothing serious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the future of stunts? Do you see things getting more outrageous? Are people going to, now that they got some technical assists or whatever, do you think stunts are going to get even more? Has it elevated the level of stunts, or doing a stunt, is it still the same old stunt?
You know, it's funny that you bring that up because, you know, if you watch Fast and Furious 11 or 10 or
Yes.
9 or 7, I mean, the first one was great. You know, it was all practical.
Yeah.
But then the computers and the cars flying from one building to another started getting a little too unbelievable. You know, what we like still are the conventional movies, like Three Billboards. I can't remember the name of that whole picture, but you know, it's like a Coen Brothers movie. There's no CGI. You know, it's gonna be a car crash. It's a normal car crash. There's gonna be a guy getting shot and rolled downstairs. It's gonna happen like you know, the gal in that movie that they did the remake with John Wayne, True Grit. When that gal rolled down that cave and got bit by the snakes. That's, you know, those are stunts that are still going to be around. Those are the budgets and the real storytelling that stunt guys prefer to do. I mean, it's great to get on Fast and Furious 10 or 11 or, you know, Tom's doing Mission Impossible 5 or 6 or 7 now. You know, and a lot of stuff is enhanced with CG, but stunt guys like to do the real stair falls and the real car hits and the, you know, the real stuff that's athletic and skillful still.
It's interesting you mentioned earlier that stunt people really have to be actors as well, because they got to act a fall that is not really a fall, but it is a fall. But
Right.
they got to act like it is a fall.
Right.
That's a tricky thing.
It's a performance. They need to perform. A lot of the new stunt guys come out, and everybody wants to be a stunt guy in the last 20 years. You know, well, 30 years ago, it was motorcycle guys. Before that, it was horse guys, right? And, you know, that's what it was, westerns all the time. So the stunt guys were coming out of the ranches, you know, and they were athletes. You know, some NFL players and some pro baseball players, and then car chase world started coming around in the late 70s and 80s, and it was all cars and motorcycles. So a lot of motocross guys became stunt guys. And then it became, I think in the 90s, it became a gymnast and a high diver or a water skier or a snow skier. And then the parkour kids came around, and they had a whole different take on it, right? And they were killing it and doing great things that, we all did as kids, but now they called it parkour. And they were very precise, basically gymnasts that bounced off, buildings and jumped off stuff. But it's a skill level and a performance level. So if you have the skill and the performance, you're going to do well. But the performance is still 80% of it.
Yeah. So, did they have auditions for stunt guys? Did they, how do you get a job as a stunt guy?
Well, the young guys start with trying to find people that will hire them. So it's not what you know, who you know, but who knows you, right? So you can be a great stunt guy, but if no one knows you, you're going to sit on the sidelines. You have to get out there and market yourself, and you got to shake hands or shake babies and kiss hands, or however that goes.
Yeah, right.
And you got to meet people and get out there, and then you hang out with this on the softball team, or you go ride motocross with them, or you go snow skiing or water skiing or jet skiing, and they see how you are, and they see your skills. Whether you're doing taekwondo or karate or whatever it is, they see your skills, and then someone says something about this kid's good, and like I got into it. They needed water skiers for a movie. So they called up this place where I was, working on a water ski show, a live show, and they said, hey, we need water skiers. So I came out and, did the bits, and they were happy with it. And then I decided that, well, I ride motorcycles and I run cars around crazily, so next thing you know, you're, doing athletic falls for bullet hits or stair falls. You just, you got to get out there and really do a good job. If you do a good job, you're going to get more work. If you do a bad job, they say bad news travels faster than good news. So if you keep doing a good job and you're on time and you help out on the set, you're not just a guy sitting in your trailer waiting for something to happen. But for the young guys to start, it's hard. It's getting harder and harder because the market's flooded.
Really? Everybody wants to be a stunt guy.
It's a glamorous kind of a job, they think at first, until you're sitting on an island in Fiji for 2 weeks, looking for shade. I was doing a Tom Hanks movie over there. I was a skinny Tom in a loincloth, and waiting to get in the boat or run down the beach. You think you're in paradise in Fiji, but after 2 months of trying to find shade on an island with minimum supplies, it's not as glamorous as you thought it was.
There's a lot of question about the roles of studios now. It seems to be that the studio is diminished or getting dismantled, or it seems to be independents all over the place. Has that changed the status of stunt people or the access stunt people have to work?
The film is a business where the phone's going to ring and you're going to go to work. And we all want the phone to ring, and we will work for anybody, basically. Yeah. So we're, from the grips to the camera department to special effects, everybody just wants to work. So as long as like we're Screen Actors Guild, so if it's a Screen Actors Guild movie, then we're working. If it's a union movie, we're all working, and we're not going to worry about a paycheck that's going to be there. But yeah, the studio thing, studio does what it does, and we like being on the big studio pictures because it's first class, and everything's done right, and they have plenty of time to get it done. Where the lower independent films, we're scrambling to do a 14-hour day with 27 shots, and you're just rushing here and rushing there. Sometimes the safety factor gets pushed to the side, where for the stunt people we have to slow everybody down. Yeah, we know you're rushing, but to do this right, we have to set this up like this. Yeah. So I'm sorry we can't speed that up, but.
Well, you got a beautiful family, Marilyn, and beautiful kids, and they're getting into stunts too, right? Riley, your son is.
Yeah, actually, Marilyn is right now working under the Hollywood sign, riding a mountain bike on some trail for I don't know if it's a TV show or a movie, but she got a call a couple of days ago and. She reminded me this morning, I'm not going to work today. I'm like, oh, okay. and then Riley and my son and daughter both had a lot of entertaining days on the movie set or commercials or TV shows. And Riley was a karate guy on Parks and Recreation with Chris Pratt before Chris Pratt was doing Guardians of the Galaxy. And that was kind of cool for him to see that. And Jessie did a couple. She did a TV series called Barry, where she had a pretty big episode and a bunch of karate stuff she was doing. And she did a movie called damn it, I can't remember the name of that movie. She was playing a part. She was in full prosthetic, 2 hours of prosthetics.
Wow.
As a little demon. Yeah, Riley's on Ford commercial, and they've all had their share, and they got a nice little bank account for it.
Yeah, right. I used to enjoy waking up sometimes and hearing the motorbikes in the hills. You being right next door here, and there's a beautiful hill on your property that neighbours my property, and I used to get a great kick out of hearing those bikes roaring because when I was a kid, I had a bike too,
Right.
a scrambler. With knobbly old tyres and a 600 BC bike, and then I had a matchless 500 cc.
Oh, yeah, those are good ones.
Single cylinder
matchless.
Go thump, 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 and you're doing 80 miles an hour, and this thing going thump, thump.
I'm sure you're
one cylinder
ripping through the outback with no helmet on.
Oh no,
in flip flops and a t-shirt.
My son Christian, I had this mattress and I took it home to my place, and Christian was only like 10 or 12 or something, and he's goggling at my bike, and I says, "Come on, I'll take you for a ride." And so I put him on the bike, and he sat in front of me, and so I got this idea. I'd never flattened this bike out, so and the Americans, when they were there fighting the Japanese, they had built a big airstrip just outside this little town of Mariba, and it was we used to call it the Drome, and it was a big long airstrip to receive bombers that were coming back and shot up from New Guinea or whatever.
Right.
And so I get out there out in this big 3 miles long airstrip, and a quarter of a mile wide, and I said, "You sit here." So I was sitting there and said, "Hang on to my arms." And I flattened that thing out. It came off the bench doing 65 miles an hour, but I amused myself by shaving down the head, putting high lift cams in it, and
of course,
big exhaust, and ran it on aviation fuel. That thing was doing 120.
Oh my God!
twice the speed, and it was shaking. The whole thing was shaking. It was just like falling apart. I'm going, oh my God.
So how old was Christian at that point?
He was 12, and we're both barefoot, or we got thongs on.
Yeah.
And no helmets, of course.
At 12 years old, he was in the 100-mile-an-hour club.
Yeah, right. And I
Father of the year.
I said, now, and I got a great kick out of it. And he hung on to me so tight, his fingers had dug into my arm and drew blood.
Oh.
That's how hard he was gripping me.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice it until I was driving back, and I saw blood, and I said, "Wow, that's really something." And so I said to him, "Now, don't tell Mother, okay? Don't tell anybody about that, because we shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean?" So
that's our little secret.
He jumps off the bike when he get home, runs in.
Mom, guess what?
We did 120 miles an hour. That was another flogging I got from Dad.
Yeah, oops.
Endangering life of that son, going on.
Yeah, we dads get that from moms all the time. When we have boys, we're gonna get that talk.
Yeah.
Yep.
But with your son and your daughter, they've enjoyed the bikes in the hills, and they ride them really, very well.
Yeah.
I was really upset when the last big fire came through and you lost all your bikes. I thought, oh my God.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
I was more sad than you were, because I couldn't hear the bikes.
Yeah.
I love the bikes.
Yeah, I think we were without motorcycles for about 30 days, and then we found another one.
Yeah.
We were back at it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, speaking of the 100-mile-an-hour club, Riley, who now races Porsches, is when he was 15, we took my one of my cars. It's a Porsche with a turbo in it, and went down to the car show in Malibu, which Riley's really into the cars at that age, right? He rode motorcycles. He raced motorcycles for a couple of years, and Marilyn, my wife, raced motorcycles when she was younger, and she was against it. But Riley was such a natural on the motorcycle since he started at 4 years old, somewhere in there.
Yeah, remember that.
That we had to get him on the track, and she she said, I don't like it. I'll let you do it, but here's one condition: he breaks a bone or gets knocked out, concussion, it's over. So Riley took out as a good rider, and he was very confident and very skilled, but he was smooth and precise. He wasn't a full radical guy like Jessie. She's the radical one, right? She'll full pin throttle right off the bat. But Riley was smart, like his mom. As Marilyn would do 2 or 3 laps, siding laps before she started getting it. So finally, 2.5 years into it, he broke his arm. So we got him out of that, and then we bought a little buggy for him, a 4-wheel drive. Small car. I think you rode in it. He gave you a ride in it when he first got it, and he did really good. Now he was sliding that and drifting that all over the yard, all over the property, up and down the hills. I think he broke the frame twice, and we taught him how to weld and fix that. And then once he got in the Porsche, and we were teaching him how to do the manual, we were leaving out PCH and we passed Kane, and I pulled her and go, Riley, all right, let's you run this thing. So we ran all the way out to Camarillo, and there's a road, Las Postas Road, and it's just nothing but straight, no telephone poles, wide open, farm fields on both sides. And he was doing, I think, 75, and I go, Riley, downshift twice and punch it. And he downshift twice, and he punched it. And from 75, he got to 135.
Oh, my goodness.
And building it. I looked over at the speedometer. He's closing up on 145, and I screamed, stop, slow down, slow down, slow down. And he kind of got the panic, and he braked a little bit, got down. And he's, what's wrong? What's wrong, Daddy? What's wrong? And he's 15 years old, right? No, I'm sorry, he was 14.
14.
I go,
wow.
Riley, you can't be in the 150-mile-an-hour club at 14 years old. I'll go to jail. He got a big kick out of it. But now, all that racing around in the car, he's took it to the track. Growing up in the hills here with all the mountain trails and roads, it's easy for a 16-year-old kid to go out there and overcook a turn, go off the road or hit a pole. So we put him on the racetrack, and we didn't realize how big of a deal that was. And for the last 2.5 years, he's been racing the Porsche, a spec boxer Porsche with Porsche Owners Club.
Wow.
And
he's racing against other Porsches. And
he's racing against other Porsches, and he was 17 when he started, and he's 19 now. He's the next youngest guy, I think, is 30. So he's racing, gentleman racers. It's a club racing, so there's no banging, and that is very gentleman-like, but he's doing quite well.
Well, they couldn't have had a better trainer than you, because you've been training him since they were born.
Yeah. I actually brought him out for a commercial we shot out at Joshua Tree, and he had to race around a cop car chasing a bad guy, and he did 2 days out there, and he did a really good job. So I was real proud of him.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
That transition from race cars into stunt driving, it should be simple for him.
Yeah. So, and Marilyn, as we're talking now, your wife and mother of the kids, she's out under the Hollywood sign, roaring through the hills there.
Yep, on a bicycle. Yeah, she once Riley got hurt motorcycling, Marilyn said, well, why don't we do mountain biking? It's probably going to be safer. So I remember one time we were up in Tahoe at one of the resorts there, and Riley and I were running down the hill. I'm chasing him, and he's now 14 years old, and he's, as you would imagine, 14-year-old, fearless down these single tracks, and I'm the older guy with a better sense, knowing what it takes to get hurt and to recover. Plus, I'm driving a motorhome that has to get back to Malibu. So Riley, after lunch, we stopped for lunch, and Riley goes, "Are you gonna go, Dad?" I go, "No, I'm gonna sit and watch. I'm gonna sit here, and you can go up." And then Marilyn called, "Hey, how you guys doing?" "Oh, we're doing great." She goes, "Let me talk to Riley." "Well, he's out on the hill." "What do you mean he's on the hill? Who's with him?" "Well, he's by himself." "Well, what if he gets hurt?" "Yeah, what if I get hurt?" "Who's gonna drive the motorhome?" So yeah, it's interesting how that works. When you get older, you realize what it takes to hit a tree at 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, trees don't bend.
No, and for Marilyn to say that downhill mountain biking with, speeds up to 40, 50, 60 miles an hour, and you hit a tree up in a trail, opposed to motocross racing where you're on a circuit and there's ambulance on station and flag workers. Mm-hmm. She had to rethink that.
Yeah. Is there any stunt that you didn't do but wish you had it done?
Oh, yeah. That was, speaking of that movie Castaway, and I was Tom double. I did a lot of the stuff in the surf, when on the raft, doing the rowing, going through the waves. But John Roseman, who at that time was the owner of Tavarua, which is a resort island in Fiji, where there's a big wave called cloud break, and when it breaks, it's 30 feet. It's a monster wave, and because it's his wave, and because he's a world-class surfer, I'm just a water ski guy that. So I was really keen on, at one point that raft is going to be eaten up by cloud break. And I really want to do that gag, but when you look at John Roseman, who's a world-class waterman, you can't argue with that. He knew that wave, and that was something I really wanted to do. But watching him do it, I'm glad I didn't do it. It was quite a gag.
Yeah. So what's the future for you, Mickey?
I do more stunt coordinating these days, and I have my DGA card, so I've done some second unit stuff. So being a second unit director is where I'm heading to nowadays. I still like the cars, the boats, and the motorcycles. Being on camera doing that stuff, it's always fun. But the stair falls and the car hits, that's a thing of the past. But coordinating's fun. You're working with the director, breaking down a script and designing the action, placing cameras. That's all fun and exciting, and I enjoy that.
So it's still as hectic and as wild and as demanding as it's ever been. Then.
Yeah, it is. It is. Billy Burton, who's a stunt guy, he was a top stunt guy in the 60s and 70s, a horseman and great stunt guy. And he told me, I did a movie called Face Off, and I jumped a boat through a police boat. It was a 150-foot jump through explosions, and it was a big deal gag, right? And the movie came out, and it did really well. John Travolta and Nick Cage, and he called me one day. He goes, "Yeah, you did a really good job. You were a young guy." It was one of my first movies when I moved back to Hollywood, moved to California. I started in Florida, did a bunch of stuff there, then came here and worked with the big boys, right? And he goes, "Yeah, you can do a big gag on a low budget show, and it's no big deal. But you do a big gag on a big show, it's a big deal. And you did a big gag on a big show, so congratulations, you did good." Yeah. He's it meant a lot coming from him.
Yeah. So you must you got young guys working under you now and directing them. You must wonder sometimes, well, should they do this or shouldn't they do it? And think about it.
Yeah.
Because you know what can happen.
Exactly. Yeah, and some of the new guys are a little too cavalier, and they want to do this, that, and the other. He goes, "Yeah, you know what? There's a better way of doing that. I just want to hook myself off this roof right to the ground. Yeah, we can pull the ground away, put a pad underneath there, and put some dirt over it so you really don't get hurt." They're like, "Yeah, but I can do it." Yeah. Well, we appreciate your enthusiasm. And of course, back in the day, in the Western days, there were no pads. They were manly guys. They wouldn't put a pad down. That would hurt their manhood.
Really?
They were just animals. Nowadays, I was working on Captain America 3, and a guy came out. We were testing a gag, and we were gonna, hand pull him off of a thing, and he into a pad. So we got pads down, and he came out with hard elbows, hard knees, a hip. He had a helmet on. He had all this gear, and you're getting thrown into pads, bro. You're gonna land on pads, and you have every pad in your bag on your body. You don't need all that. Well, what if something goes wrong? I go, yeah. You think 20 years before that, guys were doing that without any pads.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
What stunts have you done on a horse? Being a horseman myself.
Yeah, the Cossack drag was pretty interesting. Getting shot. We were robbing a stagecoach. There was 4 of us on horseback, and the full gallop chasing, and then getting the shotgun guy in the back was shooting at. He shot me. But the director didn't want me to come all the way off the horse. He wanted me to get thrown off the horse, but stay on the horse, right? So, and then do a sit-up to get back on the horse. So, as you know, it's a Cossack drag.
Wow.
So, it got shot in the face, fell off the side of the horse, and he trotted, 10 or 15 steps. And I had enough stomach muscles to get back up on the horse. And, of course, we did that 3 or 4 times at different angles. And the most interesting was they put a camera in the ground, so I was running at the horse. This is, stagecoach is already at past. So they want me to get shot and then fall off the horse and then go by the camera off the side of the horse.
Wow.
Well, the horse wasn't really keen on the camera in the middle of the road, so he started out in full speed, and then the director's 3, 2, 1, and I get shot off the horse. The horse sees the camera in the middle of the road, and as I'm off the side of the horse just hit the brakes. So my knee is in this position, and my ankle's in a position, and the horse, I was like a swinging door. I just went right to the front of the horse and then back. My knee popped, my ankle popped, my hip popped, my neck popped, and,
Oh my God.
and then the horse came to a complete stop from full speed.
Oh wow.
And that was kind of painful. I was able to crawl back on the horse, and of course we did it 2 or 3 more times.
Oh my goodness.
But they buried the camera a little better so the horse wouldn't see it. But yeah, it's been that kind. Horse falls. You do Western, you're gonna get shot off a horse.
Yeah. Right.
I've done no horse falls with the horse, but saddle falls they call it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I've been rolled off the back. I've gone off the side on either side,
Yeah.
and that's that's pretty much it.
Yeah, there's a saying in the movie business: don't ever work with an animal. So
Yeah, animals and children.
animals and children.
Yeah. No, I admire all those horse guys. I admire you because of that horse sense that you have. It's amazing.
Yeah,
And they bring in the horse guys to do the horse stuff. I did Westworld for a couple of years, a TV show, and we bring the best of the best of the best out there.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, they need 40 guys on horses, and you got stunt guys who are very athletic, and they've been on horses before, and you get them out there, and right away you can tell. The horse can tell, I'm sure, right away.
Yeah, they can.
But, we're the trained eye can see that they're, put them in the back.
Yeah. Well, Mickey, thanks for joining my show.
Yeah, it's a pleasure,
And
Colin.
you've been a wonderful neighbour, are a wonderful neighbour, and I've enjoyed the hell out of your kids. They've just been so wonderful because
Yeah.
they're younger versions of you and just as courageous and crazy. So I enjoy the craziness.
And we enjoy you being our neighbor. There's always something going on up here that we love to see and hear.
Thanks, Mickey.
Thank you, Colin.